Hello, everyone, and welcome to True Words Aren't Beautiful on a special episode of the Just Do Shit Philosophy series. I say it's a special episode because in about an hour I will turn 40, and also a couple hours ago I had a very public difficulty. Just to put it simply, I was starting to dissociate a bit and I got dizzy and I need a little bit of help getting back. These episodes, roller coasters really of the emotions. As I mentioned, if you've been watching from the beginning and you've seen all the videos, some days are better than others, and some are worse. But the whole point is to keep moving forward because you can't afford to let your emotions or your thoughts dominate your life. And even if they somehow seem like they have seized control of you. Like earlier, I needed help just walking across the room and down the stairs. You still need to take your life back. There will be moments of vulnerability, there will be moments of weakness, there will be moments where you just need someone to hold you so you don't stumble and fall. And that was me a couple hours ago. But in the end, it's a choice to continue to fight the war to live the best life possible and to not lose out to the black dog of misery. So, that being said, today we are going to talk about the concept of little emperors and learned helplessness. This happened when I was reading my old journal entries last night, and I came across something from last year. Actually, yes, September of last year, when I had arrived back in Manila, when I was living in the province in Bohol. I had met one of the teachers in my martial arts school, and we were talking about the concept of little emperors. So, this is going to be very cultural in its background, so take that with a grain of salt. This is exactly what he said. The emperor in ancient China, when a war erupts, everyone's role is clearly defined. The emperor calls the shots, while his ministers, generals, and advisors work with him to make the best decisions for the country and people. They serve him because he serves the people, having the celestial mandate. The army defends the country, comprised of able-bodied men, conscripted to protect the people. Those ineligible to serve are interesting. Cripples are dependent on others, and if they have wealthy families or are poor and alone, their existence is a crapshot. Elders advise, and are also cared for because of their knowledge and wisdom to guide others properly. Women manage families and households while caring for children and elders, keeping things in order to make sure a soldier returns to a good home. Children, like cripples, are dependent on their circumstances, but when raised properly, can become valuable citizens of the country, be they soldier, minister, or matriarch. Those unable to find a role in the military or government become merchants or servants, laborers, clergy, or otherwise the custodians of society, when they aren't defenders of the kingdom. Lastly, those unable to find any role are the little emperors. They are adult children with no guidance, crippled physically and emotionally, yet feel they are entitled to live like an emperor, being served but never serving. They lack purpose and support and alienate others. I was a little emperor. Chances are, many people are little emperors. This is because of the concept of learned helplessness. People who have survived abuse and trauma are those who acquire a form of learned helplessness where they feel stupid, nothing that they do matters, and they will never learn without the proper guidance or validation and approval from particular people, including those who have no qualifications to tell you if you've improved or not, or if you're doing something good. An example of that is looking for validation from a narcissistic individual such as my stepfather, I once sent him an invite to donate to a fundraiser we had for heart surgery. He immediately sent me an email asking me how much is my commission, and I said, "There's no commission to this. I'm working for a non-profit. I work for the Children's Hospital." This is in Cambodia. He then told me that he has experience working in non-profits because his daughter-in-law works for UC Berkeley doing fundraising for the alumni organization, and that's a non-profit, and she gets commission. I showed him our charter. I showed him emails. He didn't even read that. And he just said that it's difficult to talk to a know-it-all who knows everything. And I told him, I think this conversation's over. I'm working in a non-profit, and this is how things are. And he says, I'm stupid and I don't know anything. So instead of talking to people in my field, fellow colleagues, my employer, other people in the various NGOs in the town of Siem Reap, Cambodia, the person who affects my self-worth, the person who makes me question my ability to perform or do any good, my stepfather, turning me into someone who feels useless, affecting my productivity because I allowed those emotions, thoughts, everything to dominate my being. So going on, I was crippled by my narcissistic parents, both my biological parents and my stepfather. Class struggle when moving to the Philippines, the concept of being American and American exceptionalism, the neglect and abuse, and overall mixed messaging, plus different identities of being a third culture kid, an expatriate, an Asian American, mixed race, of Chinese and Filipino. A man protects as a warrior. He guides and keeps order as king, provides as a hunter, and meditates as a magician, and nurtures as a lover. If any of those sound familiar, it's because many of those are masculine archetypes. As a result of not fulfilling any of my archetypes, I was told I was weak and stupid, denying my warrior and magician self. I wasn't able to provide or develop wisdom without a king to guide and prepare me. And abuse and sex. I saw those things as expressions of love because I'm a victim of violence, physical violence, sexual violence, and verbal violence. And those are things for many years that I thought were normal. In fact, up to now, I still have the idea that I would rather be hit and shouted at rather than ignored and abandoned. All the while, I was told by my parents that if I act properly, I would inherit my right, my kingly right to their money. But, as my therapists have told me, without guidance and the behavior to model, I would never amount to anything but a little emperor. The thing with abusive parents, neglectful parents, narcissistic parents, dysfunctional families, they will say one thing and do another. They do not model the behavior that they are teaching. Children will follow what is modeled to them. You can talk about strength of will and proper attitude, but if you're not taught those values and qualities, you're nothing but a copy of a copy of a copy, and somehow it's your fault for not being a perfect copy or clone of your parents. This is where the learned helplessness comes in. This is where the ability to just do shit doesn't happen because you feel like you can't do shit. So let me relate another story and summarize what came from the journal without reading verbatim. So during that time, I had bought a new electric fan, and I didn't know how to assemble it. The instructions were vaguely illustrated, and their English was atrocious. Written by either Chinese or Japanese engineers who were directly translating from a dictionary. It was only then that I realized it was definitely something from mainland China because some parts were missing. It was a fake Japanese brand that some Chinese firms use to hide the fact that they are mainland Chinese. It was missing some screws, and the fan itself was misaligned. They had the wrong cover for it. So, while I felt stupid about being unable to assemble my fan, it turned out that instead of figuring out on my own, instead of following people like my ex-girlfriend, who was a just do shit kind of philosophy person, who would Google videos, look up on YouTube, or go to forums to ask for help, which is what I did, and wondered why I couldn't do anything, it turned out not only was what I was given flawed and imperfect, but I was expected to just know how to do that, to fix it myself. Thankfully, neither she nor my parents were there to shout at me and tell me that I was stupid, but those memories and those voices are still in my head, of feeling helpless, dumb, inadequate, and useless. Feeling that I was spoiled, and feeling that I had no life skills. When I went back to the store the next day to get a replacement, they also told me that I needed a screwdriver. And that didn't come with the fan. So, I got a screwdriver, and I got the replacement parts, followed the video online, and I assembled it. Still not a perfect fit for the fan cover, because it makes noise unless I angle it in a certain way, which is not the typical way. So, I managed to figure it out, and the message there is sometimes what you're expected to work with is incomplete, and it's not your fault. What you're expected to do, especially in the kind of do-it-yourself world of the West, with all sorts of resources from social media to YouTube and communities where you can ask help, some people treat you like you're stupid for asking for help. Some people assume you have the exact same resources. They don't know these little things like you don't have a screwdriver. They don't know that sometimes your parts are missing and incompatible. Sometimes you don't have the vocabulary to describe exactly what it is you need. This leads to the feeling of the learned helplessness, and that learned helplessness allows you to eventually become the little emperor, lashing out at everyone because first you feel like a victim and you're dumb, then you feel like the world owes you for screwing you over. The just do shit philosophy asks you to look at yourself honestly and get out of that. Asks you as well to look at yourself like I did earlier this evening, knowing that I'm not perfect, knowing that I still have my moments where I struggle, knowing that I need help, but still standing up and moving forward. You don't have to be a little emperor. You don't have to be helpless forever. You're not stupid. You're not useless. It's okay to ask for help. Some people will be more helpful than others. Some people will be jerks. Listen to the helpful people. Especially listen to the kind people. Don't allow the people who are unkind, critical, and harsh to get into your head and dictate who you are. That's all for today. Thank you for listening.